Section 4.6 covers the quadratic formula, which should be familiar to you from Algebra 1. Here's the quadratic formula, negative b plus minus radical b squared minus 4ac over 2a. It works when we have a trinomial ax squared plus bx plus c. It always needs to be equal to 0. So if we have an equation where the equal sign is in the middle, we want to start off by moving everything to one side. If the x squared is positive, I move everything towards the x squared. And if the x squared is negative, I usually move that to the other side to make a positive x squared. It's just preference. It does work with negative x squareds, but I like the x squared to be positive. So we end up with x squared minus 6x plus 4 equals 0. Now from here, we can get the a, the b, and the c. The a is 1, b is negative 6, c is positive 4. And we're just going to plug that into the quadratic formula, which is this equation right here. Okay, remember it's opposite of b, so negative negative 6, b squared minus 4ac over 2a. When you do this, I would say do the inside of the parenthesis first, okay? And just be aware of what you're plugging into your calculator. When we square any number, it should be positive. So when you do negative 6 squared, make sure you put parentheses around it. Okay, this would be 36 minus 16, okay, which would give us 20 inside the radical. Here we have negative and negative makes a positive, 2 on the bottom. Okay, do it step by step. We get something like this. You probably realize we're going to have to break this down. This is a 2, so we have a 2 radical 5. And then our last step, we always want to see, can we simplify this fraction? Okay, we're looking at all the numbers that are outside radicals. Okay, they're all divisible by 2, so we can turn this into 3 plus radical 5. Okay, these 2's would cancel. Here it's just 3 over 1. So in number 2, we have the same first step. Move everything towards this x squared. Going. So we have 4x squared minus 12x plus 9 equals 0. A, B, C. Okay, make sure you take the signs with the numbers. Plug them into our equation. Always start off with this one. Okay, b squared, we're going to get a positive answer. Negative 12 squared, 144. Okay, we have one negative sign here, so we have minus 4 times 9, also 144. Okay, so we get 0 inside our radical. So this is just 0. We really end up with 12 over 8, and we can simplify this, 3 over 2. One more quadratic formula problem. Here we can see the x squared is negative, so I'm going to move this to the right side over here. Okay, I'm going to move the 7x and the 4 also. Minus 7x plus 4. All right, so we end up with 5x squared minus 5x plus 7. We have our a, our b, and our c. 5, negative 5, 7. Plug it in. Okay, start with that b squared. So we have 25 minus 1 minus sign, 4 times 5 times 7. Let's see, that would be 140. Okay, we're going to get a negative number here. So we have a negative inside our radical, which means we're going to have an I in this one. Okay, we would try to break down this 115. 5 and 23, both prime. We can't break down this 23. We put them back together, right, and we get this down at the bottom. Okay, we always want to see, can we simplify our numbers? Okay, you guys tend to see this and want to simplify everything by 5, but remember, we're only looking at things outside the radical. There's a 1 here. 1, 5, and 10 have no common denominators, so this is our answer. The reason that I tell you to do the b squared minus 4ac first when we solve these problems is because it gives us a lot of information about the solutions. This value is called the discriminant, and basically it tells us what type of answers we're going to get. Okay, so this b squared minus 4ac is inside this radical sign. So when we get a negative answer for this value, for example, okay, it's telling us that our answers are going to be imaginary. if we were to graph that parabola, it's not going to cross the x-axis at all. Okay, we don't have any real solutions. Instead, we have two imaginary solutions. Okay, if this ends up equaling exactly 0, we just have one solution because this whole term cancels out, and the only thing that we have left is negative b over 2a. The plus minus doesn't do anything because we're really adding and subtracting 0, right? So one answer means that the vertex is the only part of the parabola that touches the x-axis. And lastly, we could have a positive number inside that radical sign. That's when we have two answers. Okay, it's crossing that x-axis 2 times like we have here. Okay, sometimes they're whole numbers, sometimes they're irrational decimals. But those are the 3 situations we can have: 2 imaginary, 2 real, or 1 real solution. So when we have problems like this, when it's asking us to find the discriminant, we don't have to do the entire problem. All we have to do is find what does b squared minus 4ac equal. It's going to be a single number before it's square rooted, and then we use that to say what type of answers we're going to have. So number 4, we take out the a, b, and c, and we plug it into b squared minus 4ac. All right, so 4 squared, 16. Okay, next thing you should do, count the number of negatives. We have an even number of negatives, which means we have a plus sign, because negative times negative is a positive. 4 times 2, that's 8, times 4 again is 32. 16 plus 32 is 48. Note that we're not square rooting it. Okay, in the whole equation, it's inside the square root, but the discriminant is just the number. Since that's positive, it means we're going to have 2 real numbers. All right, number 5, a, b, and c, plug it in. Okay, 12 squared, 144. We just have one minus sign, so that's going to be a minus. 4 times 3 is 12, times 12 again is 144. This equals 0, which means we have one real solution. It's just the vertex of the graph that hits the x-axis.